Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is John Waters with Three Pillars Fitness. Today, we're going to talk about cheat meals. We'll hold on a few seconds, give people the opportunity to check in. In the meantime, I hope you guys have been having a great week so far. I know it's Wednesday. I don't know about you all, but the plate was definitely full, you know? Right, let's see. All right, let's see. We got somebody on. We'll wait a couple more seconds, actually another minute or so. Give people the opportunity to check in. All right. So before we get into the actual topic, I just want to go ahead and give my usual disclaimer. I am not a nutritionist, nor am I a dietitian. However, I am a personal trainer. I've been in this business since 2015. I've had the opportunity to work with quite a few great people who have allowed me to be part of their fitness journey. And along the way, I picked up some ideas and some tricks and some, hopefully, great ideas you could benefit from that help them be successful. And I'm hoping you can find something inside of what I'm going to say that can help you reach your idea of success as well. All right. So as usual, my goal isn't to sit up here and run my mouth for hours on end. I just want to give you guys the information and keep it moving and help you. Hopefully you have a great night. All right. So cheat meals. What exactly is a cheat meal? I'm assuming if you're watching this show, you've at least heard the terminology before, and it's probably because you work out. And if you don't, you've at least heard it in passing. Cheat meals. When we talk about cheat meals, it's usually someone who's been on a diet and they're looking for a way to go ahead and sneak in that extra snack. They're looking for a day to go ahead and indulge in the things that they've been putting off for quite some time. The question is it good or is it bad for us? Let's talk about it a little bit. All right, so what makes cheating on your diet a good idea? Well, first off, let's go ahead and change the word cheat and replace it with reward. All right, so cheat already set us up in the wrong mindset. It's not something that should be looked down upon. It's actually very good for us if we plan it appropriately. All right, so got my notes over here. Why would it be a good idea? Well, it helps us reset our bodies. It helps us refuel our glycogen stores and a couple of other things that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But first, let's talk about why you should go ahead and implement this into your diet. All right, so the word diet is usually implying someone is trying to either lower the calorie intake or go ahead and reduce the amount of some form of macronutrient they're taking in. And usually that's in the form of carbohydrates or fats. And that's a great idea, especially if you're doing it in an intelligent way and you have an end state in mind. And if you're doing it the right way, you also have some checkpoints. And along the way, those checkpoints are going to be places where you're allowed to go ahead and indulge in some of your favorite foods. So when I talk to people about dieting, I try to encourage them not to think of it as getting rid of the things they like. So I know there are people out there that prescribe to different forms of eating, and that may be the ketogenic diet or the low calorie diet and any slew of those other options that are out there. Well, when you're doing this, you're pretty much saying no to something, and you're probably saying no to the things you like, to the things you love, and that can make dieting seem very restrictive, almost like a life sentence. And if you're approaching it from that aspect, you're already setting yourself up for failure. And that's where our cheat meals come into play. All right, so why would you want to implement a cheat meal? Well, as I mentioned, if you're trying to be strict on your diet, which you very well should be because your goals are important. And let's go ahead and talk about fat loss for a second before I continue. For those of you that are unaware, there are 3,500 calories that need to be burned in a week if you intend to lose 1 pound of fat. All right, so why is that important? Well, if you're lacking the control to implement appropriate breaks inside your meal planning where you place these cheat meals, you're more than likely going to either binge eat or eat those cheat meals infrequently, which is going to throw off your whole game plan. And so the way to go about making this effective for you is to plan it in advance. All right. So as I mentioned, there are 3,500 calories that need to be burned if you intend to lose some fat. All right. So how do you include it? Well, this is where you need to go ahead and sit down with your coach or look up on YouTube, sit down and get the information and figure out how do I plan proper eating. And then you want to go ahead and create a deficit that is good enough to allow you to incorporate that cheat meal or that cheat day once a week. All right. Now, depending on who you are and what your goals are, you may be able to implement it more than once a week. My suggestion to you is to go ahead and play around with that window and see how your body responds. Some good indicators could be that if you notice that the scale is increasing when you have those frequent meals, you may need to go ahead and limit that down. And if you notice that there is no loss to what you're doing, you're actually staying on track, then you're more than good to go ahead and continue on with the plan you have in mind. All right, so my second thing for you guys is boosting fat loss. Another reason you may want to implement a cheat meal into your day. So let's talk about the science a little bit. What happens to our body when we go on a diet? All right, so our body has this idea that it needs to maintain the status quo. All right, and so for any of you guys who have taken physiology, you've heard the term homeostasis. And that simply implies that our body has a state that it likes to stay at, And how does it do this? Well, it has a whole bunch of regulatory systems in place, and those regulatory systems are governed by hormones. When we're talking about restricting our food intake and trying to lower or decrease the amount of body fat we carry on our bodies, by default, we're going to affect a hormone that's responsible for our metabolism. And the hormone's name is leptin. So what does leptin do for us? All right, so leptin is directly proportional in terms of its abundance in our bodies to the amount of body fat we carry on us. All right, so let's say that you have the abundance of body fat. Well, when that happens, it pretty much tells your brain like, hey, I'm good to go. I don't need anything else. I'm full. Unless you have some kind of disorder, then it's going to work a little differently for you. But for the average Joe, that is what it's going to tell you. All right, so let's say we're dieting and we're decreasing the amount of food we're taking in so that we can lower that body fat count. But when it starts to happen, your body kind of starts getting this signal from the remaining fat cells inside our body like, hey, we're hungry. We're not getting enough. We're not getting enough fuel to be successful in our endeavors. And so your body, being the regulatory boss that it is, it's like, well, what can I do about that? It has two options. So option number one is going to try to decrease the amount of movement that you're doing. And so you'll notice, if you've ever been on a restrictive diet, you may have had an energy crash. You may have felt sluggish. All right, you can thank the lack of leptin in your body for that. Or another thing that may happen is your appetite will increase. And that could, by default, lead you to excessive eating or binge eating, or as I mentioned earlier, eating infrequently. All right, all those things are bad for us, especially when we're trying to accomplish something. And that third reason you want to go ahead and be mindful of cheat meals and think about if it's necessary for you would be improving performance. All right, so as I've already mentioned, when you start to be restrictive in terms of what you're taking in, not only are you going to increase your appetite, but decrease the amount of energy you have. And a big trade-off for this is if you're also adding exercise to your regimen in terms of your plan for meeting your goals. You're going to notice that you have a little less energy, as I mentioned earlier. And let's say you're doing a very strenuous workout where it requires you to be on point. Well, if that's the case, you're probably using some of those fast twitch muscles. And what I'm referring to are going to be your skeletal muscles. So let's talk about that a little bit further. Where is energy stored? And first off, what is energy? All right, so when we're talking about explosive training and explosive workouts, we're going to be talking about glycogen. And glycogen is stored in our bodies in the liver, and you guessed it, our muscle cells. All right, so how can we go about doing this? How can we go about being successful while we're trying to lose weight and while we're starting to feel sluggish because we're not taking enough carbs? Well, as I've already mentioned, there's going to be cheat meals. There's going to be implementing them in such a way that it's no longer a drag on your body. It actually refuels you. So adding that cheat meal will not only allow you to manage your appetite better, but it'll also allow you to replenish those glycogen stores and allow you to get more bang for your buck when you're in the gym. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys. But I do want to talk about the frequency. So one thing you may be wondering is how often should I even have a cheat meal? And is a cheat meal right for me? And like I mentioned earlier, it's really going to depend on your goals. And I will highly advise you to go ahead and get with your coach and or fitness professional and figure out what the goal for you should be. All right, so I'm doing this on StreamYard. And if you're responding in the group, I can't really see who's saying what. However, I do see that we got some comments. And I'm sorry for breaking your heart. I'm just dropping a little bit of knowledge here. And don't know who said that's why I'm still fat. But hey, if the shoe fits. I'm just kidding. There's always a way out of this. It just comes down to managing. It just comes down to, reaching out for help if you really don't understand what's happening. And don't look at food as something that you can't enjoy. It's just a matter of doing it intelligently. I mean, even too much water can kill you. So too much food can definitely outdo the goals you've been working on. And as I mentioned earlier, when you don't plan these things in advance, you're going to be more susceptible to binge eating, and you're going to get carried away. I can use myself as an example. I'm not always the most strict on myself when it comes to eating. I'm just aware of what's happening with me. But I also catch myself going through trends where I've probably eaten like trash for a couple of days in a row. And I recognize it, and I can definitely tell it in my performance. And so then I have to give myself a self-check, and I have to take a step back and be like, hey, what have I been eating? It's time to stop eating out so much and add a few more fruits and vegetables to my regimen. It's time to get back on track and be more honest and more faithful to my own plans. And so no one is exempt from falling behind or stepping out of line in terms of maintaining their fitness goals. We're all human. The trick is just to not let yourself get beat up by your slip up, and realize there's always a way to climb out of that. And that starts with being honest, looking in the mirror and saying, yo, I need to change some things. And hopefully if you're watching this video, you've reached a point in your life or in your fitness career where, you're ready to change some things if you're not already doing that. All right. And as promised, I am not going to run my mouth too much. As I mentioned before, let's try to get rid of the idea of cheat meals. That's negative. I'm a huge believer in the whole mindset idea, and I'm always pushing that. Instead, think of it as a reward. But remember, you can only get the reward if you first do the work. And that's where proper planning is going to come into play for you. All right, so I'll leave it open for a few seconds for some questions. I'm aware there's a little bit of a lag in terms of what I say versus what you guys hear, so I'll wait a little bit longer. All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This idea for this particular live was given to me by Natasha. If you guys are watching and you have something you would like to hear about or learn about, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I will definitely include your topic in one of these week's lives. Oh, someone asked me what's my favorite cheat meal. Well, my favorite food in general is lasagna. And I'm not going to lie to you, my ability to have self-control when lasagna is around is very limited. I kind of go in, you'll catch me going back for seconds and thirds. And you'd be surprised. Like I'm pretty small when you see me in person, but my appetite is worthy of someone 6'4" and 300 pounds. I can get down. All right. I'll give it another second or so. Someone asked, are there any tips for combating stress eating? And that's Wes. All right. Stress eating. So the best way that I've found to help mitigate stress eating is by getting rid of the things around you that would be potentially harmful to your goals. And so if you know for a fact that you're someone who has a stress eating situation, then your best bet is to go ahead and get rid of those things that are around you. Now, understand that some of us may have kids, and it's not very reasonable to throw away all the cookies in the house. Well, you're going to have to, push those things further out of reach and instead find healthier snacks, healthier ways of eating. Because what it may imply, if you're having a hard time getting the right things, is that your diet may be too restrictive. Because again, you shouldn't be taking away anything that you love to eat. You should just be finding better ways to incorporate it. And if you have a craving for sweets, that just means, you need to find healthier sweet things to eat and eat things that are going to keep you fuller longer. So your fruits are going to be good for that because they have fiber, and fiber keeps us full. That was an excellent question. We'll wait a little bit longer. If I didn't answer your question completely, please don't hesitate to let me know. I don't mind going on. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, it's not about being restrictive. Your way of eating shouldn't be a life sentence. And I'm not even really a big fan of calling it dieting. to me, it just sounds like something that's not going to last very long. What I really like to preach to everyone that I work with is it really has to be a lifestyle change. And you shouldn't be getting into a way of eating just to reach the goal and that be it. You have to get into it because it's something that you want to maintain forever. And the best way to do that is by not taking away the foods you like, by instead saying, you know what, I can go ahead and have this once I've been restrictive enough in the other areas to make this acceptable. All right. And I don't want to continue to beat up a dead horse. I'll wait a couple more seconds to see if you guys have any questions. All right. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate all of you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate everything you do. And I hope I've been valuable to you too as well. All right. So have a great night. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And as always, keep pushing. Greatness awaits.